Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. And let's keep going. We are taking a dive into part 2 of the Kahoot game. If you missed the game and you are still wondering like what questions we went over, and if you were there and you want to know why some of those answers you picked weren't the right ones, you are in the right place. So let's take a dive and let's finish this. All right, we are deep in it now. A therapist is working with the Johnson family who have 3 children. The youngest, Ethan, age 12, has type 1 diabetes. The parents, Mark and Susan, report that Ethan has been withdrawing from outside activities and they are concerned that he might be depressed. Ethan tells the therapist that his mother, Susan, hovers over him and that his siblings, Olivia and Jacob, dislike him because he doesn't have chores at home. Oh my God. He also expresses that he would like to stay with his cousins, Liam, over Christmas break and wants more responsibility at home. For the love of God, give this kid some independence, okay? Question. What should the therapist do first? Go back to that question. We got Ethan, type 1 diabetes, but we're working with the Johnson family. So remember, it's not just Ethan that we're looking at. We're looking at the family and we are thinking systemically, right? Olivia and Jacob, those of his siblings, they don't like him because he doesn't have chores at home, but Ethan wants to go over his cousin's Liam house for Christmas break, okay? What should the therapist do first? Now, A says report Susan's understandable need to be protective. First of all, Susan, you need to give the kid a break, okay? He has type 1 diabetes. Teach him how to, manage his type of diabetes and let him go on about his life, okay? But Susan, this question ain't just about you, so we got to get rid of A. B says focus on Ethan's need for greater self-sufficiency. Well, Ethan, I get it. You want to be self-sufficient on your own. That's fine. You're still 12 years old, but Ethan, this question is not just about you because first of all, your mother is overbearing and your siblings hate you. We got to think about that. C says help the Johnson family address Ethan expressed needs. Okay, I like that one. But let's look at the other one. D says suggest that the family explore outside activities for Ethan. First of all, the mother is already overbearing and she barely wants him going to stay at his cousin's house for Christmas break. So why are we going to explore outside activities for him? We need to be looking at C because C is your best systemic answer choice. Help the Johnson family address his expressed needs. He wants to go over his cousin's house for Christmas breaks. He wants more responsibility at home, but his mom will not allow him, which causing his siblings to not like him. This is a family issue, right? So it's not just one person. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. We need to think systemically. C is your best answer. A couple seeks therapy for marital difficulties, including disagreements about intimacy and parenting. During assessment, the therapist observes that both partners are highly self-reflective, they are open to discussion, and able to set realistic goals for themselves and the relationship. Okay, so why are y'all in therapy? Okay. From a systemic therapy perspective, the therapist's intervention should focus on what? Geez, this couple seems like they got it all figured out. What intervention do I need to be doing? A says, teach the couple specific conflict resolution skills to manage disagreements. Okay, let's look at the rest of them. B says, exploring common patterns found in marital problems to norm. There go that answer that I can't stand. Normalize. When you see an answer response that says normalize, you need to be asking yourself, as the therapist, me normalizing this issue, how does this help this family? How does it help this couple? How does it help this client? Just because you normalize something don't mean you helping somebody. You're just saying, oh, girl, it happens to everybody. Oh, boy, you ain't the only person that go through it. It's normal. No, that's not helping. So please get rid of answer responses that has you normalizing something unless you have enough evidence to do so, meaning the rest of the other answer responses make absolutely no sense at all. C says, examine the difference in each partner's family history. There go that family of origin again. First of all, this is a here and now issue because it says as of now during their marriage this is going on. So why am I digging in the past? If I dig in the past, am I going to find an answer to help this family? No, I'm not. D says building on the couple's existing strengths and competencies to enhance relational functioning. Now, let's go back and take a look at this question again. During the assessment, we know that this couple is self-reflective, they open to discussion, they can even set themselves realistic goals. So we need to be looking at D. They already got strengths. They have competencies that is going to enhance some of their relational functioning. We just need to add more to it. From a systemic perspective, we need to be looking at everyone that is included in that family, not just the one person, right? A says to teach the couple specific conflict resolution skills. That's not enough, because in the question, it may says that they have disagreements about intimacy and parenting, but they also have strengths, and they are able to use those strengths that they are coming in with to help them enhance some of that relational functioning. They just need to build on it, making D your best answer. The Wilsons come to therapy due to escalating conflicts between their teenage son, Jason, and his younger siblings. Initially, the parents tried first order solutions, yelling, grounding. Why am I feel like I'm repeating myself? I think this question was in the last one, but that's okay. These measures reduce conflict temporarily, but do not address underlying dynamics. The therapist works with the parents that completely restructure the family interaction patterns. After several weeks, Jason participates in the chores more willingly. The siblings assert themselves appropriately, and the parents support a sense of balanced authority. I remember this question now. This is your classic second order change question. We have the system that has been altered all the way, leading to everlasting change. Can't be first order change. Nothing about this change is superficial, because currently they are still doing what they said that they were doing as they were working with the therapist, right? B is your best answer, second order change. A newly blended family comes to therapy to help with their teenage children. The parents recently married and moved in together. The husband's children are 7 and 13, and the wife's children are 9 and 14. The parents report that the teenagers are acting out and refusing to follow the household rules. From a systemic perspective, the therapist's initial focus should be to do what? Again, we are thinking systemically. We have a newly blended family. Each parent on both sides of the family already have kids, and they are bringing it to the family, right? But the teenagers are acting out and they are refusing to follow household rules. How can we think systemically when it comes to working with this family? And what would be our initial focus when we start working with this family? A says determine when each child problematic behavior began. So we have a problem right now. We got an issue right now with this blended family. I don't care what y'all did 5-6 years ago and when that problem started. We are here and now, so we need to be working on the here and right now, and don't be going back to the past. B says obtain a release to speak to the children's school about their behavior. Right, because that teacher or that counselor is definitely going to be able to tell you what this therapist needs to be initially focused on. Right, so let's go talk to the teacher. Never mind you, it doesn't say that they are. Did it say they had some issues in school? Because for all we know, these kids could be homeschooled. So now we added on to it. Get rid of B. C says explore how each family member is adjusting to the new family structure and the living arrangements. I like that one. Let's look at D. Provide psychoeducation about normal adolescent development and behavior. Here it is again with this whole normalizing something. Most of the time, a family don't want to hear that, oh, them acting out is normal. Because when you tell me that it's normal that they acting out, then what are you going to do about it? Once you tell me that my 13-year-old should be disobeying me because it's normal for his age, then what are you going to do about it? That's the way that you need to think when it comes to normalizing some of these issues, and when you see that in an answer response. C is your best answer. Systemically, you want to explore each family member, because we are thinking systemically, and how they are adjusting to the new family structure and the living arrangements. Remember, this is a blended family that they are talking about. C is your best answer. A 36-year-old woman, Maria, she seeks therapy for anxiety and depression. She is the mother of 2 young children, ages 3 and 6. Her 3-year-old Leo has special needs. Maria tearfully shares that she worries she is neglecting her older child, Sophia, because she must constantly attend to Leo. She also reports that she and her husband, Daniel, are continually arguing about money and parenting decisions. From a systemic perspective, which intervention would be most appropriate during the middle phase of therapy? Now we are in the middle phase of therapy. Be careful when it comes to Questions that specifically are telling you what phase of therapy you are in, especially the middle phase. Do not pick an early phase goal or an intervention that you will use. Do not pick a late phase intervention that you are going to use when you are in the middle phase of therapy. Go back and look at that question. Maria is in therapy. She came to therapy in the beginning because she needed help with her kids and stuff. She has a special needs kid, but she feels like she's neglecting her older daughter because she constantly has to attend to the one that has the special needs. Now her and her husband are fighting constantly about money and parenting decisions. We're not in the early phase anymore. We are in the middle phase of therapy. A says explore how Maria's family of origin experiences impacting her parenting. Now, again, this is the middle phase. You don't explore, even if this was like a transgenerational model, you're not exploring family of origin in the middle phase of therapy. That's an early phase intervention. Get rid of A. B says challenge Maria's self-defeating thoughts and reframe the stressful situation. First of all, why am I challenging her self-defeating thoughts? How is that going to help her? And a reframe, you would do that probably in like the early stage of therapy. We're in the middle phase of therapy. We got the meat that's going here and we need to help this woman. For the love of God, the challenging her right now is not going to help. And talking about her grandparents is definitely not going to help her. Get rid of A and B. C says help the family identify and adjust patterns of interactions that contribute to Maria's stress, including parenting roles and communication. I like C, but let's take a look at D. Direct Maria to identify and utilize coping skills and social supports when she is feeling overwhelmed. D is going to be incorrect because it's only talking about Maria. We are looking at a systemic perspective. It's not all about Maria, because if you really wanted to take a deep dive into this, why is Maria the only person that is helping Leo, the special needs kid? What is the damn husband doing? So we also need to be looking at this entire family. That is how you think systemically. C is your best answer. Help that family identify and adjust the patterns of the interactions that are going to contribute to her stress and the parenting roles and the communications that she's been having. She needs to be telling her husband, you need to be taking care of Leo too. It's not all just her, because some way, somehow, Sophia is being left out. Think systemically, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. A mother, Linda, brings her 10-year-old son, Ethan, for therapy. She reports that she divorced Ethan's father 6 months ago. Initially, Ethan seemed to be adjusting well, but recently he has become disruptive in class, argumentative at home, and has expressed curiosity about dangerous chemicals. Oh, we got us a little fire starter here. From a systems perspective, what should the therapist consider first? Now, this is your first question. What am I going to do at the beginning of therapy with this family? Do not add to it. Do not start looking at stuff that ain't there. Do not start thinking, oh, Ethan is probably playing in those chemicals because he want to kill himself. That ain't what the vignette said. So don't add to it. A says determine the father's current involvement and consider how parental boundaries and co-parenting could be affecting Ethan. I like A, but let's look at the rest. B says obtain a release to speak only to the boy's teacher about the classroom behavior. Now, my whole thing is about this one. If we're thinking systemically, we're going to talk to the teacher. Instead of thinking about what's going on in my own home, in my own family that I have going on, let's obtain a release to talk to the teacher about the classroom behavior. The classroom behavior ain't the only issue that is being presented in this question. Get rid of B. It is not right. C says assess Ethan individually for suicide. I did not just say that. Because you see he curious about some chemicals, you better start assessing him for some suicide. Ain't none of that being mentioned up there. This is a general systems question. D says focus on diagnosing ADHD. He might have some ADHD, but he also might just be going through it because him and his mama ain't together no more, and that's why he argumentative at home and being disruptive in class. And now the poor kid starting expressed that he's curious about dangerous chemicals. It didn't say he was playing with the chemicals. It said he was curious about them. You don't know. He might want to be a scientist when he get older. Don't start adding to the vignette, right? So you need to first determine the father's current involvement and consider how the parental boundaries and the co-parenting might be affecting little Ethan. And once we figure that out, he might stop being curious about those chemicals that he's talking about. A 53-year-old military veteran, James, is experiencing significant frustration and anger in his relationship with his 12-year-old son, Ethan. Dang, Ethan again. Good Lord, Ethan. He reports, my son doesn't listen to me. I know my wife is turning him against me. Damn, not a wife turning him against the father. From a general systems perspective, which intervention would be most appropriate to assist James? James is 53 years old, y'all. He's an old military veteran. He probably tired. Ethan probably argumentative because, I don't know what's going on between him and the wife, but whatever. He's 12-year old. He's going against the grain of everything. And now James seems to think that the wife is turning him against him. Systemically thinking, how are we going to answer this question? A says directly realign the executive subsystems parents to control the child's behavior. Okay, yeah, it sounds systemic. All right. Focus on eliminating the child's disruptive behavior as the first step toward change. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're going to eliminate it, all right. Sure, we definitely are. That's the first thing that we're going to do. C says collaboratively examine and adjust family interaction patterns, boundaries, and roles to facilitate healthier communication and expectations. Okay, sounds nice. D says rewrite the problem for James and make him see it differently, thereby reducing the conflict. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna rewrite this problem. we're gonna make all of these issues go away. D is incorrect, first of all, because it's narrative therapy. We ain't rewriting no problem here when we doing general systems theory, so get rid of it. A says directly realign the executive subsystems parents to control a child's behavior. I know that structural therapy draws from general systems theory, but that ain't the question that they asking right now. Get rid of A. It makes no sense. B definitely don't make no sense because B sounds like, CBT or something. Let's extinguish the child's behaviors. Let's eliminate it as the first step. That's like your behavior model, so get rid of it. But if you take a look at C, collaboratively examine and adjust family interaction patterns, boundaries, and roles to facilitate healthy communication and expectations. Because first of all, James seems to think that the wife has the son turning against him. We need to facilitate some healthy communication. We need to go through some different expectations because why this 12-year-old ain't listening to me? I'm 53 years old. You better be listening to me. And I'm a war veteran. You better be thanking me for my service. Alrighty. After attending therapy for 3 sessions, the Garcia family thanks the therapist for helping them improve communication with their teenager, Mia. The family announces that they do not plan to return for further sessions. From a systems perspective, which intervention would best assess the termination process? Now, we are going towards termination in this question. We need to be looking at words, phrases, anything that is going to be consolidating some of the things that this family has worked on in therapy that lets us know they've reached their goals and they're ready to terminate. But it's only been 3 sessions. Are you crazy? Did you really understand it just that fast, right? They thank the therapist for helping them. They helped them a lot with improving their communication with their teenager, Mia. So they're not coming back. Let's take a look at the answer responses. A says, suggest that improving communication is only the first step and encourage them to schedule another session. There you go again, throwing off some of your anxiety onto this family because you probably seem to think that you ain't did a good job because it's been 3 sessions and now they don't want nothing to do with you. Get rid of A. You cannot hold a family hostage. If they say they want to leave, then let them leave, okay? B says, compliment the family on their responsiveness, but predict that they will likely relapse with a short time. I cannot believe that as a therapist, you're telling them that, oh, if you leave now, you're going to mess up. As a therapist, how dare you? Get rid of B. C says facilitate a discussion about the original presented problem, exploring how the family patterns of interaction and communication contributed to any change. I like C, but let's look at D. D says point out the areas of dysfunction and just recommend that they're not. No, we're not holding any of our families, clients, couples hostage. Get rid of D. D and I think actually A, B, and D all sound the same. You down in the family telling them that they haven't made any changes. But if you take a look at C, facilitate a discussion with them because remember, termination is what? It's collaborative and it must include the entire family. You're going to discuss the original presented problem, then you're going to explore how the family's patterns of interaction and the communication contributed to any of the change that they have. That is one of your beautiful answer responses for how you're going to be discussing goals that you have reached in the termination phase. Alrighty, everyone, we have made it to the last question. The Rosie family comes to therapy because their 9-year-old daughter, Clara, has frequent tantrums and refuses to follow household rules. The parents describe feeling stuck in cycles of arguing and giving in to Clara. From a Milan systemic perspective, which intervention would the therapist most likely use first? So, I threw this question in there because this week we're going to be working on Milan. So if you have worked on Milan before, you know how to navigate these answer responses, because from a Milan systemic perspective, we know that general systems theory, draws on a lot of our systemic therapies, and Milan is going to be one of them. So what intervention would you most likely use first? A says assign the family homework to practice new communication skills every day. It's not going to be the first thing that a Milan therapist is going to do. And first of all, that's most likely something that you're going to be doing in the middle phase of like structural family therapy or something like that. So get rid of it. C says focus on Clara individually to teach her coping skills for managing anger. Nope. Not your best answer. This is a family that is in therapy. We are not just focusing on Clara because we know the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Get rid of it. D says encourage the parents to impose strict consequences. Oh my God. There's that answer. There's that encourage again. Encourage and normalize, like the vein of my existence. Stay away from those answer responses. We are not going to encourage our parents to do anything that is going to be like, that goes against what we do in the first place. Impose stricter consequences because, right, they're already stuck in a cycle of argument. And don't you think that's going to escalate it even more? But if you're looking at from a Milan approach, B is your best answer. Circular questioning should have just pinpointed you right to it and said that is what a Milan therapist is going to most likely do first when it comes to working with this family. All right, everyone, thank you for rocking out with me. Thank you for being silly with me as I am making this video. If you have any questions, comments, or any concerns, as always, leave them for me and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. If this video or any of my videos have helped you in any kind of way, please give me a super thanks. All money that you give me or you donate to me, whether it is via Zelle or Venmo, goes straight to buying new study materials, buying a new program for me to help get through to everyone as to how to take and pass this MFT National Exam. I will talk to you all soon.